fire, and dice. Together on one scratch ticket can make your dreams come true. Yes, it's Fire and Dice. The new $10 scratch game with thousands of dollars to be won. Match your numbers with any of the winning numbers and win the prize shown up to $125,000. You can double or triple your prize with Fire and Dice. Available from all lotto agents and runners. There's cash to catch with just a scratch.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, 30 candidates nominated to contest the general elections on November 5th, 2020. Vincentians encouraged to keep the peace as the campaign continues for the November 5th general elections. And major craft exhibition held today as part of the National Independence celebrations.
And in your local sports, 3 matches were played yesterday in the National Lotteries Authority Front Veranda SVG Community College Invitational Competition. And Hill 16 beat Enhams in yesterday's match of the Hyrone Digicel Richland Park 9-a-side competition. In the region, West Indies Test captain Jason Holder has warned that the mental health of the players could be at risk if adjustments are not made to the biosecure bubbles.
Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Updates.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Roundtable Talk. As you know, general elections are some 14 days away, slated for Thursday, November 5th. And we have with us again our guests from last week, the Supervisor of Elections, Dora James, and her deputy, Sylvester King. I send you all these messages all the time and I keep fumbling with the name. Anyway, how have things been going? Last week, we ended by showing people how they can actually get onto the website and see the building, the exact location where they will be voting on election day.
Certainly.
We want to do some more of that. We want to start this evening's program with some more of that.
Certainly.
So, explain the process again for us.
Well, good evening again, and to those of you who are viewing, we are really excited. In fact, we are closer now than ever before. 14 days and just a few hours. And what we've done since 2015 with the help of the ITSC department, and we want to salute them because they have been an integral partner in helping us with this. We have developed an application through which persons can find where they are located on in terms of where they would vote. And also what we have done, we have provided in this application a pictorial representation and a Google map of it. So you can literally stay at your home before time and figure out how much time it is going to take you and how you get there. You can actually use your vehicle and it tells you start now and you have arrived. So how does this work? Well, to begin with, you go on our website. So www.electoral, and that is spelled without an I, electoral.gov.vc. So that's the site. And once you are there, you would see, and if you look on the screen, you've seen it there, you would see drop-down boxes, you would see polling station finder, you would see the voters list, you would see voter registration, you would see constituencies. You just have to click on any of these, but we are concerned this evening about clicking on the polling station finder. So you click on the polling station finder and immediately a box would come up prompting you to put in a number. Now, on every card that is issued, we are not talking about your SVG number, which is at the front of the card. We are talking about those numbers that are at the back. So at the back of the card, there are two numbers. There is an NIS number, that is if you would have provided us with an NIS number, and there is your voter registration number. Now, your voter registration number is the number that would follow you for the rest of your life. So it doesn't change. And that number, once you put that number in the slot that is provided and you click search, immediately it will bring up your name and it would show you a photo of your polling station, and we will try it out. So let's try a few numbers that we have here from earlier callers here. So 052243, 052243. If you put that in, and that's going in right now, and we click in search, so immediately you notice the voters' information is coming up, and this is somebody that we know here. That's Miss Lawrence, and she's voting at the Windsor Primary School. Now notice the polling station F and F1, and the instructions are clear. Surnames beginning with A to I is in F, and surnames beginning with J to Z would be in F1. Now that's just one component, but let's go to the Google section so that we can illustrate that this is actually working. So just click on the location. If you go back up, you would see a section there that says click on location. Let's click on that location. Right. So now, naturally speaking, it would bring up a map like this, and then on the left hand or left hand side, you see direction. You just click on direction. Let's put in some directions so that we know that it is working. Let's put Kingston, and for ease. And this is a good tool to use and to really help your family, and our young people would love this, because certainly they would be able to stay and determine how much time. So let's click on as we put in Kingston, let's just click on it, search, so that it brings up, all right, you notice what is happening there? So on the map, you notice that this has mapped out for you, just like a Google map will work anyway. So if you're returning home and your name is on the list, and you're trying to find your polling station, this would be a useful tool to help you, because it will tell you how much time it will take if you are walking, and if you are driving, it will tell you how much time. Now, while I don't want persons to just sit back and stay home and say, well, I only could take 10 minutes, because there will be a line at the polling station and you want to get there so that you can get out as quickly as you can. But it's a very useful tool. And again, because there is a picture showing you the polling station, you can't miss it. You really can't miss it. And I would love for persons to use it. And I'm sure on this program we could encourage persons who are at home and who are viewing to literally call us, tell us your number, and we would help you maneuver this. And I tell you, Teresa, a number of persons since last week's program
have been calling you?
have been calling us and have been excited, and elderly persons have been calling. And I mean, just today, an elderly man called, and he had his entire family and his in-laws. He gave all the numbers, and he was so excited to see that he can see a picture of the polling station and knows exactly where he's voting.
So you might have to put somebody at the office to deal solely with that.
Well, if we need to do, we can work that. I'm sure Supervisor knows how to deploy the staff at this time.
Let's try. I don't know if you have any more numbers.
Yes, we have a few more numbers. So let's try another one, because sometimes people think that you're just making it up. So let's try another number quickly. If we get that screen back up. So let's go back to polling station finder. And this is another number. So 094069. 094069. And I'm sure somebody will be excited to see right? Now this person lives in Central Leeward. And so the name of the person is there. And Central Leeward, and the polling division is D. And notice that it is at the Barley Government School. You can't miss that school, no. You can't miss that school. And then again, if we were to check the location, I'm sure it will tell us how much time it will take us from Kingston as a central starting point, you can put in where you live, but we're using Kingston just as a point of reference and to tell you how much time it will take you from Kingston to Barley. And certainly for the person here, I'm sure if you're driving, if you bring up that box a little more, it tells you about 27 or 27. How much minutes? Right. So you see how much minutes it's going to take you if you're driving, and that's providing there's no traffic and all of that on the road.
All right, so moving right along, it's a very useful resource, I think, and I hope people do take the opportunity to put it and make it work for them. Let's talk before we take our first break about the registration process that is happening right now and ends on Saturday the 24th. Where are we where that is concerned?
Okay, we are just about 3 days away. Tomorrow is Thursday. We have Friday, we have Saturday. So we urge persons to get out and register. Those who have to register, we look forward to seeing them too. Now, it has been a very hectic period. And many of the persons who are procrastinating are now coming forward. And we have to accommodate them. But we say to them, remember too that the days are short. And in the afternoon, the lights go early. So if they get there early and get on time, our close-off period is 5:30. And we would like them to, get in. So if they can get there early, get their registration done, and move on with little problems, because if you stay and hold up the line, then you're preventing somebody else from getting there. And we encourage them to go to the constituencies. We find a number of persons, as soon as you get there, as early as you can get at the office at mornings, there's a line. And we encouraging persons to go to the constituency, because we have so much doing, a number of cards to get ready. There is a deadline. We have to meet a deadline. So by the 30th or so of October, we must put our final list together. It must be out. So if you come to the office and you're seeking help in terms of registration, we have to deny you. Not because we want to be a little hard, but because we have extra work to do and we need to get that done. We have deadlines to meet. And we were encouraging persons to do so for a very long time. Some persons waited, but we still hope that you can get through. Now, within that time for registration, we had nomination. And nomination was yesterday. And to date, we have, at the close of registration, we have some 33 candidates. The two major parties, the ULP and the NDP, they have their full slate, 15 candidates each. We have 2 from the Green Party and we have an independent candidate. So we congratulate all of those candidates and we look forward to see a nice, peaceful election.
So nomination day passed without incident?
Without incident. There were a number of speculations and so on, but we were not perturbed.
Okay. If someone really lives on the mainland but works in the Grenadines, the person's name was on the list before, but it's not on the list now because I think they didn't update. Can they do the process or start the process in the Grenadines? I mean, there are only a couple of days left, so...
Once they have the 6 months in the Grenadines, and if they go to the Grenadines, they must know that that is a transfer.
And it's a transfer. So that is what I think that person actually wanted to know. That will be classified as a transfer,
Yes.
and they will have to vote in that constituency.
Yes,
Correct.
because you see, I say that so that they can understand. Because sometimes you say, I live here, this is my home area, and I need to register, and I'm disappointed that I'm not there. But if your name is off the list, and you go back to seek registration, it is as though you're a new person. You're just coming on for the first time. So that is why you have to spend that 6 months.
Okay.
So,
Well, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the election process, what is going to happen on election day, and get to talk also about offences, etc. Back in just a moment.
Channel 114. Visit you. Channel 114.
Fire and dice. Together on one scratch ticket can make your dreams come true. Yes, it's Fire and Dice. The new $10 scratch game with thousands of dollars to be won. Match your numbers with any of the winning numbers and win the prize shown up to $125,000. You can double or triple your prize with Fire and Dice. Available from all lotto agents and runners. There's cash to catch with just a scratch.
Welcome back. Today our special guests are the Director or Supervisor of Elections, Mrs. Dora James, and the Deputy Supervisor, Sylvester King. Election Day, what is going to happen? What is the process? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, Election Day begins at 7. Well, for the workers, they would be there early. But for the voters, it begins at 7. And let's say that everything is ready, 7 o'clock has come, the presiding officer, he or she would open up that ballot box, persons will be able to see it, examine to see that it is empty. Mm-hmm. And then it will be placed in a position where all can see. Mm-hmm. And it is safe that nobody else would interfere with the box. It will be locked and it is ready now for us to vote. So we reach to the point where we're going to vote. We get the first voter. And according to the law says that you are applying for a ballot. So a ballot paper shall be delivered to a voter who applies therefore, and immediately it is being delivered. The ballot paper shall be marked with the official mark, either stamped or perforated, and the initials of the presiding officer. So when you're going to see that the presiding officer has a number of ballots in a book. It would be taken out, one would be taken out, it would be stamped, and the presiding officer would place the official mark, and you will be shown this ballot. You'll be spoken to in terms of the direction. You'll be given all about the directions of how you vote, and it would be folded. Now, it is your responsibility as a voter, first of all, to ensure that the ballot is stamped and signed by the presiding officer. That is the duty of the voter. It doesn't make any sense. You wake up in the morning, get ready, and you come, and when it's time for counting, your ballot is not counted. So that is important. And your ballot is done in secret. So you've been taught how to fold your ballot. It will be folded for you. You go to the compartment, you make your choice, and then you bring it back folded. We don't need to see, the workers do not need to see what is on the ballot. They don't need to see that you mark your X in this space. What they need to see, though, is that the official mark and the presiding officer mark is there. So the ballot is folded in such a way that would be outstanding. When it is returned, the presiding officer will look for that. Once you bring that back, you're going to be told that you must dip your finger in the ink. We have a number of questions about the ink. This is COVID, what do we do? And so we will continue the discussion. And once you have done that, that is completion, the presiding officer will remove the counterfoil, that is the top of the ballot, and place your ballot in the box. The counterfoil will be placed in an envelope. Now, I deliberately left out the whole issue of the identification because this is an issue. When you get to the polling station and you go into the polling station to apply for a ballot, you must be identified. Mm-hmm. Don't take it for granted that the person there knows you. Yes, they may know you, but you need to show that identification. You have the workers, you also have the agents. They need to hear who is this person who's applying for the ballot. And they need to check the list to see if you have the right to vote in that election in that polling station. So you're identified. Each person will go to the list. That is the job of the poll clerk. They will go to the list, find your name. They will call your name and call your number. And that will be marked off. The agents will be able to hear. They will also mark off because they would have their sheets too. Mm-hmm. And so we are sure now that you are the person you say you are, because we would ask you that. You get your ballot, you move on to vote, and we ask you to move quickly so that, remember, we just have a limited time. And there are a number of persons who are coming behind you. So don't go into the booth and hold it. Just mark your ballot and move on.
So there's a question. On 4 occasions, the issue of the possibility of a pen being left for voters to use in marking their X. Can you please clarify this issue, and will persons be allowed into the polling booth with mobile phone?
Okay, so I will take the issue with the pencil. Now, the pens. The law says the voter on receiving the ballot paper shall forthwith proceed into one of the compartments in the polling station and there secretly mark his ballot paper by marking with the black lead pencil provided a cross within the space containing the name and symbol of the candidate for whom he intends to vote. Mm-hmm. So the law says it's a black lead pencil.
Exactly.
We, as workers, will place a black lead pencil. So we are appealing to persons. If you go to the booth and see a pen, don't use it, because automatically your vote will be void.
Okay, so the question of the mobile phone, are they allowed inside the booth?
Now, we are being challenged. Persons say, oh, it's not in the law, but we are voting in secret. Why would you want to go to the booth with your phones? So we are appealing administratively to persons to leave their phones outside.
It has to do with the secrecy of the ballot.
It has to maintain the secrecy of the ballot. And you need to also support and uphold the law. Now, persons say, Justice John spoke about you having the right to take a picture of your ballot. Well, I am not a lawyer, but I'm just saying that if we're voting in secret, let us, all of us, help to uphold the secrecy of the ballot. I mean, if you go now and you take a picture that says something, maybe something else is there, what are some reasons why you would want to go and take a picture of your ballot. But the fact that you're providing that space for secrecy, use it and behave like you know that it is a secret ballot.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Will the ballot boxes be the same as the ones used in the last elections, or will they be changed to the wooden ones like we used to have before? And then somebody else wants to know, isn't it safer to use a pen rather than a pencil to mark your ballot? Are the ballot tamper-proof?
Well, I'm going to continue on that vein, King.
Sure.
The law says a pencil, we can't change it.
Exactly.
So we employ people. We say, use a pencil. You're given a pencil, use it. You did not see a pencil, ask. And in this COVID time, we are preparing to sanitize our pencils, so we give people that ease to understand that you're safe when you come to vote. So we encourage you to come out. On the ballot box, there is nothing, absolutely nothing in the law that states that we must have a wooden box, a plastic box, a tin box, whatever. The law says that once the ballot box is locked and nothing can be placed inside or be removed without it being unlocked, then the box is legal. Now, persons have a preference or they grew up knowing that we had this wooden box. We have gone past that. We have outlived that. And so we are not, it is not against the law or breaking the law to have the ballot box. So we need to educate our people on the whole issue of the box.
Okay. Can one vote with a driver's license, and would persons in quarantine be allowed to vote if they have a negative COVID result? I guess that all comes down to the whole question of the health protocols that would be in place on election day. That last question.
And certainly, the issue of being able to vote without your ID, and I want to emphasize that taking along your ID is essential. In fact, it is a voter's card. It is a voter's card that is serving dual purposes. So taking along your ID speeds up the process. Now, let's say you don't have your ID and you have a passport or a driver's license. They are a form of identification because they carry a photo. Now, and because they carry a photo and you're standing in front of the presiding officer, they can easily identify you. Now, let's say you do not have a driver's license or a driver's card, or you do not have a passport, then when you come to the polling station, expect that the process will be a little more longer for you. We will have at each of the polling station what is called a polling card. At registration, there are two cards that are filled for you. We call one a master's card, and the other one is called a polling card. And that photo that is taken, and many, many years ago in 1982, and even subsequently then, when persons took their first ID, that, you know, that black and white picture, some of you don't like it. You know, Teresa, you don't like how it looks. But, you know, that is on that polling card, and it helps us to identify the person that is standing in front of you. So the thing is, taking along your ID card is going to be very critical so that it speeds the process up. And I think once people have that, then they can easily move through the process, the line, much faster. Certainly, I don't want to spend too long at any polling station, given that this is COVID. So I want to go quickly, exercise my franchise, which is my right, and I want to get out as quickly as I can. So that deals with the question of the ID card. And the other question was with relation to
if people who are in quarantine.
I know that that's a question that is being raised, and as practiced in other jurisdictions, we saw what obtained, and I think similar would be the case here in St. Vincent. We will be advised shortly, and not too long from now, in terms of the protocol that will be obtained. But rest assured, their rights will not be trampled on, because they still have their rights to exercise. And certainly the Ministry of Health would advise us on how to deal specifically with persons who are in quarantine, because they would come from specific constituencies.
Definitely.
And all of that and all of that.
Okay, we'll be back in just a moment.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, 30 candidates nominated to contest the general elections on November 5th, 2020. Vincentians encouraged to keep the peace as the campaign continues for the November 5th general elections. And major craft exhibition held today as part of the National Independence celebrations.
And in your local sports, 3 matches were played yesterday in the National Lotteries Authority French Veranda SVG Community College Invitational Competition. And Hill 16 beat Enums in yesterday's match of the Hyrule Digicel Richland Park 9-a-side competition. In the region, West Indies Test captain Jason Holder has warned that the mental health of the players could be at risk if adjustments are not made to the biosecure bubbles.
Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
Fire and dice. Together on one scratch ticket can make your dreams come true. Yes, it's Fire and Dice. The new $10 scratch game with thousands of dollars to be won. Match your numbers with any of the winning numbers and win the prize shown up to $125,000. You can double or triple your prize with Fire and Dice. Available from all lotto agents and runners. There's cash to catch with just a scratch.
Welcome back, and before we get into discussions relative to some of the offences, there are one or two questions. Were the ballot boxes in the last election locked? That's one. This person has been asking that question on three occasions. And somebody else wants to know, is a tie strap or adhesive sticker a lock?
Well, the person who sent that question would determine that. What they would call a lock, they would determine that. But what I can say is, I'm going to repeat what the law says. Once the boxes are locked and nothing can be taken out or put in without you remove those locks, it is legal.
Okay.
Well, there are several offences that are listed in the RPA that one should become aware of. And let's see if we could do a few of them. For so sure, starting with subsection 38, intoxicating liquor not to be sold or given away on polling day. So hence the reason why shops that sell liquors, you would notice that
They're usually
closed.
Yeah.
And for contravening this particular provision, there's a fine and confinement of $750 and 6 months imprisonment. And so that means you're going to have a nice Christmas. Now for employee...
So it's not one or the other, it's both.
Fine and confinement. So you lose any opportunity to celebrate 9 morning. So you don't want that. Then employers to allow employees time for voting. So every employer shall on polling day allow to every voter in his employ reasonable time for him to vote, him or her to vote. And no employer shall make any deduction from the pay. So you can't take out no money to say, well, the people them gone to vote and that's an hour. And listen, if you violate this provision, there's another fine and confinement, $750 and 6 months imprisonment.
That's not a lot of money.
You know it's not a lot, but then you don't want to have a record to say that you went to prison. Then loudspeakers, ensigns, etc. are prohibited on polling day. I think I need to read this. No person shall furnish or supply any loudspeaker, buntings, ensigns, banners, standards, or a set of colors, or any other flags to any person with intent that it shall be carried, worn, or used on motor cars, trucks, or other vehicles as political propaganda on polling day. And a violation of this is $750 or 6 months imprisonment. It seems like that's a common. But there's
what about the signs and so that are there now? Do they have to be taken down?
Especially if they're in a location where a polling station
Close to a
is
polling
close to a polling
station.
station, so that you don't wear ribbons, you don't wear bandanas, you don't wear labels or any of those things or signs on that day. So that's an important thing to remember. And what about bribery? Yes, that's an offense. The following person shall be deemed guilty of bribery within the meaning of this act. Any person who directly or indirectly by himself or by any other person on his behalf gives, lends, agrees to give or lend or offer, promises to procure or to endeavor to procure any money or valuable consideration to or for any vote, any voter, or to or for any other person in order to induce any voter to vote or refrain from voting. So there's a charge there. And so there's an offense that, and it is listed, so many of them listed there. Also, I want to look at 46, which is undue influence. Any person who directly or indirectly by himself or by any other person on his behalf makes use or threatens to make use of any force, violence, or restraint, or inflict or threatens to inflict by himself or by any other person any temporal or spiritual injury. When I read this, I took another deep breath, because I say, if you as a pastor, you go on your pulpit and you scare people, using your power to do undue influence. Well, the penalty here is $750 imprisonment for 6 months.
The thing is, you really don't pursue these things. Before you go on, somebody is asking, is there early voting in SVG? Meaning, is there any law that say voters can begin voting before the actual election day? Well, I think we dealt with that last week, and that's definitely a no-no. And someone is asking whether or not you can circulate that flyer that has the offenses.
It's actually online.
On Facebook. It's on the webpage. It's on the webpage as well.
Yes, it's there.
And you would find them in the communities just now.
Yes.
Okay, so.
But I think I want to look at this one. Please. Because there is a notion that dead people can vote. Well, I never really see anybody jump out of their casket and vote it. But let's hear what this offense is. It's called personation. And it's subsection 47. Any person who at an election applies for a ballot in the name of another person, whether that person be the name of a person living or dead, or of a fictitious person, or who having once voted at any election applies at the same election for a ballot paper in his own name, shall be guilty of personation within the meaning of this act. And the penalty, I like this one. This one sounds reasonable. $4,000 or 2 years imprisonment. This sounds reasonable.
It sure does.
So you think that you could get away by saying
I can live with that.
You could live with that? So there, and the truth be told, and I think I stand, Supervisor, I think I better come close to you over there with this. But historically, I do not know of any cases where any dead person voted in.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because just today I was seeing on social media where someone was circulating something saying that this person is dead and the person's name is still on the list. If even that were to happen, I mean, there are people who work in the polling station, so a dead person can't just show up and be allowed to vote, or somebody saying that they are that particular person.
And let's be honest, and I know Supervisor will respond forthwith on this, but let's be honest. There is no voter list across the world, and I've done my research, where you would find not a single dead person's name on it. Because people die
Every day.
Every
Every
day.
day.
And after you would have published a list, somebody can die.
Okay, so there's a question here for you. Well, at least two questions. Someone, and maybe I need to call that person's name because they're asking why my name on the list as dead. What information you get to put my name as dead? This is a Tonya Gunny Christopher.
Well, give me which constituency I'd love to pull that up.
They haven't said, so I don't know. Maybe they can fill us in with that information. Which constituency are you in so that we can double check that? And someone wants to know if my grandmother comes to the polling station to cast a vote and she's not able to see the name of the candidates, is there someone there to assist her?
Yes.
Okay, so let me take with Granny, because those are special to us. If Granny comes, Granny will be told the candidates and the symbols and so on would be there, and that would be explained to her. Now, if you're saying that Granny might not be able to see, that means she has a challenge.
Yeah.
And the presiding officer is there that can assist. Granny can ask the presiding officer to mark her X. Or she can use the companion. If you're going along with Granny, then you can do that for Granny once you're following Granny's orders. But you know, if you ask the presiding officer to do so, that person must follow the orders because it is going to be marked so that the other persons around the table and the agents can verify that you have done justice to Granny. You have followed Granny's directions.
And somebody would actually witness that.
Yes, they are the witnesses.
And I think supervisors, for persons who are incapacitated, the law makes provision for them to bring along a companion to vote, and this is the same issue for them to vote on the person's behalf. And there is the provisions in the Act that the presiding officer could be asked. So persons can actually come and say to the presiding officers, I want you to vote for me.
Yes.
Why should we trust officers? Well, who will you trust?
Well, and then all of the officers in the station have been sworn to secrecy. So, and the thing that is amazing, Teresa, and this is important, because you have the presiding officer, you have the poll clerk, you have the two agents, and whoever Granny wants to vote for, with a candidate of her choice, she is saying that to the presiding officer in an open way. So, in other words, your wishes are being carried out. Chances peradventure, if you have a companion, there's a probability, I have to put it down that way, there's a probability that your wish may not necessarily be fully carried out if you're blind. Because you tell the person who you want to vote for, and the person say, have you done so? And you say, yes. But you can't see. But when you tell the presiding officer that you want to vote for a candidate, and that is said openly, the presiding officer can't change that. Because the poll clerk has to see it, the agents have to see it, so your wishes are being carried out.
Okay, so I think this is a good note on which to end this segment. We'll be back in just a moment.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, 30 candidates nominated to contest the general elections on November 5th, 2020. Vincentians encouraged to keep the peace as the campaign continues for the November 5th general elections. And major craft exhibition held today as part of the National Independence celebrations.
And in your local sports, 3 matches were played yesterday in the National Lotteries Authority French Veranda SVG Community College Invitational Competition. And Hill 16 beat Enums in yesterday's match of the Hyrule Digicel Richland Park 9-a-side competition. In the region, West Indies Test captain Jason Holder has warned that the mental health of the players could be at risk if adjustments are not made to the biosecure bubbles.
Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
Welcome back. This is our final segment on today's program. There are a few questions backed up, so I'll get straight to them. Is there a legal time frame that a citizen should be in SVG before he or she is qualified to vote? That's one. And there's a comment, not really a question. That's not the guy, that's the guy who couldn't recall. Who is that guy?
We don't know.
No, we certainly don't. So what is the process for taking off persons' names who are dead? I think we did deal with that last week, but I guess you can go over that again quickly. If a person who just turned 18 leaves his constituency and lives in another constituency, well, that wasn't finished. Question certainly wasn't finished. On election day, when you go to vote, would you be required to wear a face mask? Are you guys remembering all these questions? Mm-hmm. You remember?
Okay, let's start with the face mask. Yes, we're asking people to wear face masks. You see, you're protecting yourselves and you're protecting others. Now, it is, as I said earlier, it is not mandatory in St. Vincent, but we are asking persons to do so. This is a COVID environment. We are voting in a COVID environment. And for safety, we would wish that all persons would walk along with a mask. They would wear a mask. When you get into the station, you would have to move that mask for a small window, so that others, those persons who are speaking to you during the interview need to know who they're speaking to, and then you could put your mask on. In relation to the issue of the dead, as I recall, we do not put that near to our names on our list. On our voters list, you have the number, your voting number, you have your name, you have your occupation, and you have the address. That's all. Mm-hmm. So no one who would look at a list would be able to say, oh, these persons are dead, these are deceased, and these are alive. So I hope that that would clear the mind of the caller, of the person who sent that question.
That makes a lot of
sense. The issue of if a citizen, how long a citizen has to be in the country, I want us to understand that this is a voter's card, and there are criteria set up in the law that speaks to how a person become qualified as a voter. They must, if you are a citizen of St. Vincent The Grenadines, you must live within a constituency for a period of 6 months. So that's the criteria there. Once you have lived for 6 months, and you can then go and seek to be registered. If you're a Commonwealth citizen, you have to be here for 12 months and have lived in one place for 6 months. So those are the conditions set out in the RPA. Regards to the 18-year-old person, you have to be 18 before the 24th. Or if you turn 18 on the 24th of October, you can then go and be registered, but not after the 24th. So if your birthday is after the 24th, you would have to wait until the next election, but you would get registered after election for sure.
And we advise them to stay put until, if you're 18, stay put, register before you move. Because if you break that and you move outside of the constituency, then you have to wait till 6 months. So please. Sometimes persons are asking. We had somebody who came in today, and they, in a particular constituency, they went to the Grenadines, they spent 2 months or 3 months, and then they come back and they're fussing. But you ask them to do so when they turn 18, before they start migrating wherever. and they don't follow the instructions, and then they come now asking and saying that I'm living here, I should register here. Yes, but you did not follow the protocol.
And there are consequences, because the law says if you give false information, that you will be charged $750 or 6 months and 6 months imprisonment. And I noticed that there are persons who are rehearsing the time. So when you ask, how long have you been living? 6 months.
Yes.
Now, that tells us clearly that you rehearse it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, someone is saying, I have observed that just before the start of voting, an oath of secrecy is taken. But after the count and agents leave the polling station, they will call the candidate and relay the results. Is this allowed? When does the oath of secrecy end?
The oath of secrecy is taken by all the officers who work in that station, and there is provision in the act that speaks to it, that they are not supposed to digest any information until the close of the poll and so forth. But you know what happens, and let us be real. When a candidate visits an agent at a particular station, what is the purpose for the visit? I don't know. But there's a reason for the visit, and the agent is a representative of the candidate. And I'm sure if I'm a candidate, there are certain things I would want to know. And so, but the important thing is that an oath of secrecy must be taken seriously, because we're sworn to it. And people are violating some of these things, and there are consequences when we violate these
and
provisions.
this is sometimes too, it creates conflict. And if we go back to some of the things that were uttered in the last election, people are still speaking about it, that sometimes you speak, you give information, and it is not really correct. We have a particular way how you report your information, and we would appreciate that if you go to the station as an agent, that you respect the protocol. You're sworn to secrecy, you must sign on to it. So if you sign to say these are the happenings in the station, you must uphold that. Yes. And we find too often persons are deviating from what they sign on to.
In fact, listen to what this section 54, infringement of secrecy. Every officer, clerk, and agent in attendance at polling stations shall maintain and aid in maintaining the secrecy of the voting in such station, and shall not communicate, except for some purpose authorized by law, before the poll is closed, to any person any information as to the name or number on the list of voters of any voter who has or has not applied for a ballot paper or voted at that station. And no person shall interfere with or attempt to interfere a voter when making his vote or otherwise attempt to obtain in the polling station any information. So the law speaks to it, and there is a penalty of $400, 6 months imprisonment.
You see, and that is why it is also safe. If we go back to the issue with Granny, that is also why Granny can openly say, she doesn't have to shout for everybody on the line to hear, but she can speak so that the persons at the table can hear, and the agents, because they will draw close, and they need to uphold that secrecy. They can't go out and say, okay, this person voted for X, because you have sworn to secrecy, and it must be upheld.
Yes,
so you don't go about, and sometimes you notice that as soon as the poll is out, they run off. Yeah. Persons would start jumping before even the final result is called to the official site. And we find that sometimes it is a problem. And persons, if you're listening, you know what happened in the last election, that information was shared, and sometimes even up until now, we still differ in terms of the information, because there are persons who are holding on to certain information and others who are holding on. And the misinformation seems to be getting its way.
Okay. Somebody's asking, can I come home today and vote today? Well, if your name is on the voters list, I don't think there's anyone who can stop you.
Yeah, exactly.
Will the names of citizens who reside abroad still be on the voters list? Well, yeah.
Yes, the names would be on if they have a valid card. If it is within a 10-year span and we have not yet cleaned the list to remove those names, their names would be on the list.
I want to bring something, Teresa, here, because earlier there was somebody who was asking about phones, and under that same infringement of the secrecy, number 3 said, no person shall directly or indirectly induce any voter to display his ballot paper after he has marked it so as to make known to any person the name of the candidate or candidates for whom or against whom he has so marked his vote. So to display it means that you find some way to
yes, because you know, if they use their phones, they take a picture, they
so it's
take
an
it for a reason.
It's really an offense.
It's going to be displayed. You see people put it all on Facebook.
Okay, Mr. Israel Bruce wants to know, well, the actual comment, please tell the nation why is it that persons living overseas for over 5 years en bloc still have their names on the voters list. I think we dealt with that.
Yes, we dealt with that, and Mr. Israel Bruce, as he lists his name, he knows that the law says if your person is overseas for 5 years, and I think that is the area he is looking at, if a person is overseas for 5 years, continuous years, then their name should be removed. But we go to the process of removing the names, and that is the fact, that is the area where we need to zero in on. Unless we have that enumeration period where we can verify and have all those names, or as happened in 2015 in relation to the Act, where persons' names were removed and the list was expunged, then those names cannot be removed.
Okay, somebody's asking, will the NDP get to see the ballot box and ballot paper before election day?
I think the parties, they have we have our meetings and we'll take it there.
Okay, so there you go.
Well, certainly, you know, I want to emphasize the right to vote is a fundamental right. And when you think of what happened before adult suffrage and the struggle that persons had to go through to attain this right, I think it behoves every person who becomes eligible to vote to really exercise that right. I think it is a fundamental thing. And sometimes people take a back seat and say, I'm going to participate. And then they have the most comments to make about governance and such. And I think this is the opportunity for persons to truly get involved in making their voices heard. Because you after it, you know, you're going to find there's some people who are going to wake up and realize, oh wait, this is what has happened, like in Brexit, that, you know, the British people didn't even realize. Well, some probably realized after that they had an opportunity, and it was a missed opportunity. So I encourage and implore every Vincentian
to exercise their right. And that's a perfect note on which to end this evening's edition of Roundtable Talk. Thank you very much once again, Supervisor of Elections, Dora James, Deputy Supervisor, Sylvester King. I know you guys have a lot of work on your hands. It's not an easy task. But thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for continuing to help us in educating our nation as we move forward to the next general elections come November 5.
Oh, yes.
And I just might have you guys back on here before November 5.
You're doing something special at you. It was our pleasure.
It was a pleasure being on this program, and we continue to educate our nation.
And just remember to visit the website. A lot of information is there, and you really can make good use of it. And use the application.
Okay, thank you, and good evening. See you next time.